Greetings, my beloved Black people. Welcome back to the plight and struggle of Black people in America. As you know, normally on Sundays, we have the Prominent Black People series. However, today, we're going to do something just a little different. We're going to have a discussion about a portion of the state of Black America. Okay, and this message is primarily for foundational Black Americans. For those that don't know exactly what a foundational Black American is, a foundational Black American is those Black people here in America that are citizens that have descended from those who have once been enslaved in this country, such as brothers like Carter G. Woodson, the Black man who created Negro History Week in 1926, that it evolved into Black History Month in 1976, because in that year, here in America, Caucasians were celebrating their 200 years of freedom from the UK. And so Black people collectively said, okay, well, that's nothing for us to celebrate because we were still enslaved in this nation. Therefore, we'll go from Negro History Week to Black History Month. And so that's how that happened. And that is one of our premier Black foundational Americans, Brother Carter G. Woodson. He was a child of enslaved Black Americans. And those are foundational Black Americans. Me, you, many of us, some of us not. An example of those Black Americans that are not foundational because they don't descend from those that have been enslaved in this nation, the United States of America. We're talking about Barack Obama. Barack Obama's mother was Caucasian from this nation. His father was African from Africa. So therefore, he's not a foundational Black American. Kamala Harris, the same way. Her mother was from India, father Jamaican. Therefore, she's not foundational American either. So we are, most of us. So this message is primarily for Black foundational Americans in the United States of America. We're going to talk about a few things and a few different people, individuals in our community that most of us are familiar with. To begin with, I'm going to speak on Minister Louis Farrakhan. I saw something on social media. It was a piece that was dated December 1st, 2020. It was from NOI video. And the title was The Power of a Loving Woman. And so, you know, I see something with Farrakhan on it that I hadn't seen before. I'll check it out. And I checked it out. And it mentioned his wife and, you know, how that title fitted. But to just get right to the part that surprised me a little bit was the part where Farrakhan mentioned that these days him and his family live on their farm in Michigan, and that they live around all these white families, and that during Christmas, he would give gifts to these white families in his farm community. And my thought was, okay, what happened to all that separate and all that sort of thing? And just to mention it, when it was said a lot, and I guess accepted as that, I always felt like that was dangerous. It made me think of things like these 27 Black massacres that have happened to Black people in the United States of America. And they were isolated. Black Wall Street is one of the 27. These are well-documented massacres that happened in the United States of America. And obviously there's probably thousands more. And so I'm suspecting that Farrakhan maybe did a little thinking, research or what have you, and concluded that perhaps he does need to have places among us as well as among them. I know a couple of brothers that's yet in the Nation of Islam. I know some brothers that started the Nation of Islam and then changed or converted, however you want to say it, based on situations that changed, I guess you could say. Like I was born and raised in Philadelphia in the 60s and 70s. And then during that era, the Nation of Islam was real big and strong in Philadelphia. And Elijah Muhammad, the founder, his son Wallace D. Muhammad had Philadelphia as his city. And they did great things in that city. And so I'm grateful for those things. And I wish Brother Minister a long life. He's had a long life. I can always kind of know how old the minister is because he was born the same year as my mom. So I've always been able to keep up with that. And, some people you give the benefit of the doubt because you don't always have facts and connections to the in-depth details of the situation. So I'll go there with that brother. And we've got a couple other brothers that I'm going to speak about, some that maybe not quite as reputable or something like that. Like Jesse Jackson Sr., for instance. I'm having a suspicion that when he passes that, there's going to be a lot of information come out. Let me give you a perfect example. I know a lot of y'all remember when they would show, and they still show, the police with dogs and the firemen with hoses in LA, fire hosing black men and women and children, I believe. Well, it turned out the brother that was doing all that filming and videoing, when he died, it turned out he was the FBI informant. And that's what they do. They have so many spies and infiltrators among us. And when they die, apparently that's part of the deal. They can't reveal them until they die, because when they die, they do reveal them. And I have a suspicion, not just on my own, and these are Jesse Jackson Sr. as well. A brother named Steve Coakley, he was out of Chicago, and he had extensive pieces on YouTube about the situation with Jesse and the murder of Martin Luther King Jr., that type of thing. So we'll find out and we'll see. I mean, I'm wishing nothing bad on nobody, but time tells every story. That's what's real. Let's go to this fella, Al Sharpton, okay? Just to hear him right quick. This guy, he obviously sold out for the money a long time ago. Okay, this is the thing that I saw. This fella ran for mayor of New York City. Okay, you know how they do it. The primaries, they go against each other in both parties, the so-called both parties. There's one party I contend, the Capitalist Party. That's it. But anyway, during the primaries, him and the other Democratic fellas argue and dispute. And Al Sharpton called one of those Caucasian fellas a racist during the primaries. It turned out Al Sharpton didn't win the primaries. That same fella that he called a racist did. And then after calling this Caucasian fella racist, then the Caucasian racist won the primary, then Al Sharpton then endorsed him. The same guy that he said was a racist. Say, come on now. Stevie Wonder can see that. Y'all heard me. Okay. So we have a situation where we have the good, the bad, and the ugly within our community. Carter G. Woodson is one of our best and finest. And don't get me wrong, we got some current people that's doing good things. Like here local in Dallas, Texas, we got a few brothers like Eric Johnson. Eric Johnson has the podcast, The Switch Within. He has the book, The Switch Within. If you hadn't got that book, I would advise you to get it and check it out. It's going to give you some very interesting tips on life, and life's relationships with others. And that'll help quite a bit. And I'm looking forward to having him as a guest real soon, like with less than 6 month time frame. I'm going to put it out there and hope it happens. We have another brother that I mentioned his product once already, Black Massacres. He also has a book, Black Excellence, and he has 2 more coming. This brother is here locally from Dallas, Texas. He's also known as Mayhem the Mentor, which he mentors our youth. And he has an outstanding story. You can go to YouTube and various social media outlets, if they call them that, and look up Mayhem the Mentor in Dallas, Texas. We have a couple of young brothers. One young brother, Michael Thomas, he's vice president of Black Men Who Care Incorporated, a youth mentoring organization, which Black Men Who Care Incorporated is having their 30th anniversary next year, 2023. March is the anniversary month. And then also Black Men Who Care Incorporated president, Henderson Boone Jr. He's also an up and coming young brother. He's 37, I believe. Michael Thomas, like 41 or 2. He just had a born day recently, something like that. I'm 62. I'm one of the old fellas. I'm the secretary. Then our treasurer, then the third, he's older than me. So we got as young as we could, but you know, they run and control it, and we do things to help educate our youth about the things that are so important and crucial in life for their future. Perfect example, and it's so unfortunate. When it comes to being able to read, not only most children in America can't read, most adults can't read either. By reading, some people think reading is when a person can see words on a paper or a screen and recite them. Okay, that's just that, reciting words. But most people that can recite those words have no idea what those words they just recited mean or meant. Okay, this is so important. That's what reading is. Reciting those words and understanding what they mean, and then be able to expound on that you just read. Okay, and sadly, most Americans can't read. There's a school in Oak Cliff that we would love to get inside of, elementary school, Cedar Crest Elementary on Bonnie View Avenue, pre-K through 5th. And they have, unfortunately, a proficiency reading and math rate of 22%. And that's so unfortunate. Hopefully we can get in there. And if we can, we'll definitely make a difference. But even, anyway, we'll move right along. And I wanted to say something about, just for your information. Okay, I've heard some things about Black people in the Jewish community. Let's talk about that just a little bit. Different people know different things. Some people don't know anything. They just repeat what they heard somebody else say. Some of those people. I'm not one of those. Everything I talk about, I know about it. Okay, this is one thing that I know about. Okay, I mentioned a couple of situations with our brothers that may not really love us like we thought. But what about Black institutions, political institutions even? Right now I'm talking about the Congressional Black Caucus. And that's by coincidence is made up of so-called Democratic Congress people. And with that said, if it's called Congressional Black Caucus, that will give you the impression that their interest and concern is what's best for Black foundational Americans, I would say. Okay, but it turns out, for any of you that ever heard of Assata Shakur, let me back up a little bit, because I started to say something about Blacks in the Jewish community. Okay, Assata Shakur is a sister. I believe she may have started out with the Black Panther Party, the original Black Panther Party. If she did, she didn't stay there. She ended up getting into an organization called the Black Liberation Army. Okay, and they were heavily involved in fighting back force with force, because a lot of times these police officers would raid Black Panthers and other Black organizations' facilities with guns, and these Black people believed in fighting back. And the point I'm getting at with this Black and Jewish relationship thing here in America, and it varies, I suspect, per region, but this happened heavily like up in the Northeast, where Assata Shakur and a couple of her comrades was riding in a vehicle in New Jersey, state of New Jersey. Long story short, they had a shootout with some state troopers. One state trooper was killed. One of Assata's comrades was killed as well. Okay, long story short, again, Assata Shakur ended up getting busted out of prison by some brothers, by the brothers. A couple years later, she was snuck to Cuba. She's still in Cuba. She's been there since 76 or 78, I believe. 1976, 1978. Now, the Congressional Black Caucus was confronted by the FBI saying that they wanted to increase the bounty on Assata Shakur's head from 1.45 million, let's say, to 2.45 million. And Congressional Black Caucus approved and signed off on it until somebody out of the Black community confronted them. And that's when the Congressional Black Caucus said, oh, they used a real name. We didn't know that was Asada. Come on, that's bull. If they didn't know, they ain't doing their job. They supposed to know. They knew. That's just to show you there's no political institutions in this nation that care about the well-being of Black people, well-being and betterment of Black people in this nation, foundational or not. You feel me? That's what's really happening. So Black people, we need to know a lot of these things, what's going on. Black unity is the answer to the problems in the Black communities. Black unity is the answer, no doubt, because we have so many Black sellouts, unfortunately. Okay, let's talk a little bit more about this situation with the Jews and the Blacks. If I didn't mention, I'm gonna mention right now. And if I did, I'll mention it again. There's a segment of the Jewish community that was providing a lot of money for those Black Liberation Army organizations and the original Black Panther Party to function and have their weapons. Because these Black comrades were willing to fight to the death, and they weren't taking physical abuse anymore. I mean, even in my life in modern times, in the 70s, when I was in high school, I was a victim of police brutality in 11th grade. The police know I was a minor. LC couldn't mess with me for not being in class, but he busted me in the mouth and in the jaw a couple of times. He wouldn't have did that in the Caucasian community, bust them little white kids or Caucasian kids in the mouth just because they was out of school and all that type of thing. So, yeah, Black people, we in a nation. This is the thing that's so unique about this nation and Black people. In America, Black people are the only citizens that America target and attack. That's unfortunate. But what it tells me is Black people, we are such a, beyond brilliance, such a capable, we're such a everything people. The only thing they can actually do, and they know it, I'm not saying anything that they don't know. A lot of us don't really know it, but you will now if you believe it. The only thing they can do to us is slow us down. They cannot stop us. They know it. A lot of us know it. And this is the thing, let me tell you about unity. There's no people anywhere that they're 100% united. That's not even reasonable to expect. Okay, with that being said, we're not trying to unite 100% of Black people. That would be great, but it's not possible, for one thing. Okay, but we're trying to unite like-minded Black people, those that believe and care about the well-being and betterment of Black people. Those that know Black people united is the answer and solution to the problems in the Black community. So, with that said, we're going to go on with our day, and we're going to think about Black people loving Black people, because that's the thing to do, and that's the thing we're going to do. And many of us are doing it already. Just one little deal on this rapper dude in the basketball all-star, Kyrie Irving. Kyrie Irving, what I understand, this brother is an upstanding, upright, righteous Black man, feel me? That type of thing. But the other guy's a rapper. Okay, his personal business, how stupid he is, that's his business. But what happened was, I saw where this fella talked about something called Black Futures and talking about getting rid of Black History Month under the guise of us being able to pick our own stuff. Guess what, player? We picked that. No Caucasian gave us Negro History Week or Black History Month. So for me, I don't care who you are, what color you are, how much money you have, when you attack anything that's done upright by our ancestors, beloved ancestors, at that, sir, I'm on it. So I don't care about you and who you love, who you make your money from, none of that. But when you mess with Carter G. Woodson's work, I'm on it. And you feel me? Come on, Black people, let's love each other. That's what we do. That's what we're gonna do. Keep on doing it. Wow, 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 I love my people. Say it with me now. I love my people. Beautiful Black people. I love my people. I love